Am I the jerk for telling my parent it's me or the dog? I am currently 6 months pregnant and living with my mother due to a housing debate with my boyfriend. I was helping pay bills until I got pregnant, and my mother stopped asking me to help so I could save money for the baby. For the past year, I had been the only one to clean the house thoroughly. She does the occasional sweep, but I am the only one who mops and cleans the bathrooms. I tend to do the dishes, and my grandmother will do them if she comes over and sees any in the sink. I still buy groceries and take care of the dogs during the day while my mother works, and she watches them overnight while I work. We have 5 dogs. 4 of them are hers and 1 is mine. The oldest of the 5 is an 18-year-old blind, deaf, and partially paralyzed dachshund. He wears a wrap diaper to keep him from urinating all over the house. We have a doggy door, but he has stopped using it since he can't jump anymore. He doesn't whine or stalk the door when he needs to defecate. He just walks and poops. This makes it difficult to tell when he needs to go outside. I try to put him outside regularly throughout the day, but since he can't navigate, he just stands right outside the door and barks. I let him back in and he defecates inside. I have told my mother that maybe it's time to put him out of his misery. He's been paralyzed 3 different times and seems to bounce back. While he does get zoomies around the house occasionally, he crashes into walls and barks at chairs. She has suggested in the past that we put him in a kennel with a cushion and puppy pad, so he is confined to one space. However, now that I'm suggesting we try to actually implement that, she says it's inhumane to have him in a kennel all day. I'm getting too pregnant to keep cleaning and changing a senile dog when I'm going to have my own baby to clean up after. I've told her I'm done because I can't go one day with a clean floor without him defecating all over the place. It's unsanitary and it's not going to be clean for the baby. It's me or the dog. She said I was wrong for telling her to euthanize her dog and that I'm just experiencing crazy pregnancy hormones. I would move out, but she convinced me to stay here while I'm taking care of the baby. We live in a fairly large house, and I was going to help with the bills if I had anything left over in my monthly budget. She also told me she doesn't want to live alone, and she doesn't want me to struggle while dealing with a newborn. I'm planning on taking 1 year off work so I can be there with my baby. If I were moving out soon, I would just bite my tongue until she had to take care of her own dogs. I'm honestly just tired of being the only one cleaning the house. The rest of the house doesn't take super long to clean, but the poop stains on the floor drive me crazy. We have tile, and you still need to get on hands and knees to scrub it off. We have tried full doggy diapers, but since he's not stable on his legs, he can't walk in those at all. The wraps also help his back out a little. It sounds like there's a lot to unpack here. Moving in with your mom after a dispute with your boyfriend, and then getting pregnant seems like a complicated situation. If living with him isn't an option because of his kids, it's important to consider how you'll support yourself and the baby. Maybe it's time to really sort things out and figure out a stable plan for your future. Am I the jerk for refusing to dress modestly when my roommates have a guest over for dinner? I, a 24-year-old female, have 2 roommates I'll call Steve, a 23-year-old male, and John, a 24-year-old male that I've lived with for about 2 years now. We all get along, and the only life difference is that the 2 of them are both fairly religious and attend church every week together. I grew up religious but took issue with the church for a lot of reasons, particularly with me coming out as gay. They have no issues with that, and Steve even went to Pride in our city with me so I wouldn't have to go by myself. Recently, John began to talk to this girl on a Catholic dating app, and they seem to have hit it off. I've asked John if he'll be inviting her over and that I'd love to meet her if he's comfortable with it. He shrugged it off the couple times I casually brought it up, but earlier today he asked if we could chat. He basically asked if I would dress and act more modestly if he brings the girl he's been seeing over for dinner. He said he didn't think it was appropriate for me to be wearing cropped shirts and ripped jeans if we're having guests over. I pressed him on it since we've had plenty of friends and even family over with no issue. All John kept saying was that he really liked her and wanted to make a good impression with his living space. He didn't want her to think he was living with people that didn't present themselves appropriately. I asked him if it was because I was gay, and he hurriedly denied it and just said that as a 24-year-old woman, I should dress more modestly when having company over. He wasn't even inviting me to the dinner they were making. I was just going to be home. My usual weekend outfit is a cropped band tee with a sports bra underneath and high-waisted jeans that have some rips from mid-thigh to mid-calf. There's no more than 3 to 4 inches of exposed skin on my stomach. I told him absolutely not, and that I wasn't changing how I dressed in my own home, and that it was rude of him to ask. I stood up to go and John then asked if I could just not be around Saturday evening. My response was, fuck that, I'll wear whatever the hell I want, and God can smite me for all I care. I just left him sitting there and went upstairs to my room. This request has come out of nowhere, and it just doesn't sound like John talking. That was yesterday, and I've since heard from Steve that the girl is coming over on Saturday. He also mentioned that John had asked him to invite me out with him for drinks so he could have the place to themselves that night. Steve doesn't seem to know about John and my conversation. John has just been giving me the silent treatment, and Steve is now asking me if I want to hit a couple of bars Saturday night with his cousin. I don't feel against that, but I hate the way John is trying to just get me out of the house now. I feel petty and want to just stay home, but I know that's dumb. I've always had an okay relationship with John, and I'm starting to feel bad for how I acted, and I'm wondering if I'm making this into too big of a thing. Am I the asshole? You are not in the wrong here. If Steve has a problem with a woman dressing casually in her own home, he should not be living with one. It is inappropriate for John to try and influence your clothing choices to make his new girlfriend comfortable. However, it's also a reasonable roommate courtesy to give John some space and go out on occasion, like bar hopping on Saturday if it interests you. Ultimately, looking beyond the weekend, it's important to establish boundaries and ensure both parties can enjoy privacy when needed. Would I be the asshole if I reveal that I know my mother-in-law is not dead? I, a 24-year-old female, have been married to my partner, a 22-year-old male, for 2.5 years. We've known each other for 4 years. Very early on in our friendship, he told me his mother had passed away. This is not true. I have recently discovered his mother's active Facebook account and active YouTube account. It is 100% her. She has connections to his siblings through these accounts and posts her face often. She even has a baby photo of my partner. My partner has almost zero connections with his blood relatives, besides his biological father, who divorced his mother early in his life. He does not talk about other family. He grew up in an abusive and neglectful household and has distanced himself in every way. As far as I am aware, he told me his mother is dead because he thinks she is dead. He was kicked out while his mother had health issues, and upon trying to return, was told he needs to leave because she has died, as told by his stepfather. He accepted that answer and went to live with his biological father in another state, where we met. I had no reason to not believe this story until recently, when his mother was suggested as a mutual contact on my Facebook. From this point, I found her other social media accounts. She is very much alive and active. I should note my partner despises his mother. She was the perpetrator of his abuse, and he has never expressed anything except negativity towards her, which is why I do not think he would have questioned her alleged death. He moved on quite easily, as far as I can tell. It was probably a relief for him. I am terrified of triggering him. Imagine thinking your mother, as terrible as she might be, is dead, and then she is not. I am afraid he already knows this information and purposely lied to me. I worry he will be upset at me for not letting sleeping dogs lie. I did not intend to find this information out. She was a Facebook recommended account. If he is not lying, I am also afraid if I say nothing I will be inhibiting closure for him. So would I be the asshole for revealing that I know she is alive and well? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. It sounds like a terrible situation, and he may or may not know, but if you stay together in the long run, this type of thing could be a hard secret to keep. He may know that she's actually alive, but is fine considering her dead, or at least dead to him. It might even make it worse if you withhold the information, and he finds out you knew for a long time. Am I the jerk for studying instead of visiting my GF of 9 months who had her wisdom tooth removed? Hey, I am a 22-year-old male studying industrial engineering in my 2nd semester. I couldn't pursue education for 3 years because of an illness and moved out from home for university due to a narcissistic father. This is my first relationship, so I have issues assessing this situation. It is currently pretty stressful, as I have an oral exam coming up where I have to know all the physics lab experiments we did, including all of the theory, by heart. I am very stressed and studying as much as I can. Seasonal allergies make focusing even harder. Usually we see each other during the weekends because we live 1.5 hours apart. I couldn't see her last weekend because I had to finish the physics lab protocol, which took almost the entire weekend. I have the oral exam this Tuesday, so I couldn't manage to make time to visit her. Studying at her place doesn't really work because her parents have a dog, which causes allergic asthma for me, making studying and concentrating even harder. She texted me that she is hurt and feels like she is not important enough to me, especially now when she got her wisdom tooth removed. She also suggested going our separate ways. I feel terrible for not being able to visit her, but I also feel like I must not fail this education, as I already lost 3 years due to combating an illness, and I don't really have anyone to rely on financially. My father doesn't have any income, and my mother raises my 8-year-old brother on her salary. So I wonder, am I unreasonable? Am I a terrible person for not making the time? For context, we text every day regularly. Sometimes it would take me a few hours to reply when being in a study session. Up until the conflict, we would talk over the phone for about an hour every evening. I sent flowers her way to cheer her up after surgery. Whenever she visited me, I usually surprised her with a bouquet of flowers and fresh strawberries, or homemade cake, maybe fresh crepes, affordable silver rings, or for Easter, I prepared an Easter basket with edible paper grass and chocolate eggs. I also always paid for our meals when we went dining, which has been 2 times until now. I am usually the only one to tell her I am glad to see her. She doesn't really reciprocate anything I mentioned here, but still tells me that she feels like she is not important enough. The only verbal affection I receive are occasional "I miss you" texts. More often than not, I feel like she doesn't really care. While she expressed that it is hard for her to be vulnerable, in general, I pick up more negative signals than positive ones. This could also be an issue of my perception. She knows you're studying really hard and still gives you guilt trips, which is pretty self-centered. A good partner is understanding and supportive, and she is not showing either of those qualities. This might be a good learning experience for understanding what you want in a relationship. Should it cause stress or provide support in stressful times? Focus on your education. If she doesn't support you, then she is not worth the bother. Am I the jerk for telling my sibling that I'm angry and I don't want to talk to them? Here is the revised text with unrelated details removed, lists turned into multiple sentences and grammatical corrections made. For some context, I am a 26-year-old female, disabled and in college. I live with my father, his wife, and their 3 daughters who are 17, 9, and 8 years old. They do not cover any of my expenses, and I contribute financially to the household. Lately, they have not been saving any food for me at all. They usually cook extra, but now they are just making enough so I do not get any leftovers. So, I have stopped helping out with household chores except the ones that concern me. I wash my own dishes, feed and keep the pets clean, and clean the bathroom after I use it. Occasionally, I also do their laundry, hang it, and iron it. Recently, the youngest got into my room and stole some of my makeup, giving it away at her school. This hurt me a lot because I often buy them gifts and help them with their homework. I told my stepmother, and she talked to her daughter. However, she said she did not know if it was her or not, but she would pay for the losses. I do not care about the material stuff or the money. What bothers me is the betrayal. I think at 8 years old, a child knows stealing is wrong. Even if she had taken the makeup for herself, I would have forgiven her easily. No one told me what happened. They just swept it under the rug. My other sister recently told me the truth. More than anger, I felt really sad because it felt like a straight-up betrayal. She already knows and understands these concepts. I did not show my anger or say anything, but the next day, she was trying to talk to me, and I just said, "Sister's name, I am mad at you for what you did," and nothing more. I said it calmly, did not raise my voice, and did not curse. That night, my stepmother confronted me and said what I did was out of line because she already dealt with it, and I had no part in it. I told her I have the right to be mad and express it healthily. I also said that at 8 years old, she should learn that actions have consequences. My stepmother argued I have no part in raising her, but I think if she hurt me, she should at least apologize. So, am I the asshole for telling my sister I am angry? You are not in the wrong here. What happened is not unusual for a kid that age, but a few days of feeling the consequences of hurting someone close to her are part of the necessary learning experience. This is a natural consequence, and it's okay to let her know you were hurt by her actions. Fortunately, kids that age often feel guilty and end up confessing and apologizing, so don't be surprised if she does so in the next few days. Am I the jerk for telling my twin that she uses me as a soundboard for her physical issues too much? I will try to make this as condensed as possible. I, a 30-year-old non-binary person, have a twin sister, a 30-year-old female, who was diagnosed with POTS, AIDS, and mast cell activation in the last few weeks. I noticed a pattern of her bringing up her medical issues to me almost once a day, if not more. I have been trying to be understanding and patient, provide non-judgmental feedback, and not catastrophize. Usually I say things like, "I'm glad you found a doctor that you like and who listens to you. Everyone has different limits and rest, you need it." If she has blood work she wants me to look at, I go over the best case scenario. Admittedly, I work in a high-intensity eating disorder unit, which may contribute to her feelings of frustration towards me. I thought I was being good at being supportive, though I am sure there is truth in her stating I come off as annoyed even if I don't try to show it. I was under the impression I was doing well at it as she keeps coming to me. It all came to a halt at my mom's birthday dinner. My sister ate acidic foods at the movie theater and had a huge sugary margarita at dinner. This gave her horrible heartburn. She walked away from dinner. I went to check on her a few times and she finally just asked to chill in my car. I drove us there. When we went outside, she was screaming in my back seat. I was surprised and looked at her and said, "Why did you order and finish that huge drink, dummy?" I now realize it was not the best thing to say, and it did not come off as a lighthearted joke. She snapped at me and yelled, "You never believe me when I'm in pain in front of the whole family." I was taken aback and hurt. I have even given her money to help with doctor's visits. At that point, I told her to get her feet in the car and stop screaming. My tone was not gentle by any means at this point. I stated I would take her to the emergency room, but she had to stop yelling or I couldn't drive her. It's not safe. I told her someone would probably call the cops or an ambulance if she couldn't stop, and I would if she was in that much pain. We finally headed to the local emergency room, and she suddenly was able to stop yelling and stated it was just heartburn and she just wanted to go home. So I took her to the gas station, let her go to the bathroom, and got her about $30 worth of medicine because I know really bad heartburn hurts like hell. We talked in the car on the way home a bit. I think I may be the asshole because I said, "I feel like you just use me as a soundboard for your medical stuff. You don't ask me about work, school, or my day anymore. I also had no idea you felt this way and wish you would have told me I wasn't giving you what you needed before you yelled at me. I feel I may have brought this up at the wrong time and am letting my personal lack of emotional energy influence this. We also had a huge blowout a few weeks ago where we both said some pretty hurtful things that I am not completely over. We are currently taking a break from speaking as this has led to another huge fight. No matter what was talked about, she would always turn it back to herself, never caring about anyone else. It got to the point where she would just talk, and there'd be no response because it was all repetitive complaints and no action. Just because someone is family doesn't mean you have to tolerate their behavior. Embrace the space and decide if you deserve better, because sometimes distance brings much-needed peace. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.